I discovered my wife. Of 7 years is cheating on me. She doesn't know that I know. This is the story of how I caught my wife, how I exposed her lies, how I made her pay for every deception, every stolen moment, every kiss she thought she got away with. She thought she was playing me. She had no idea I was playing her. I never thought I'd be the guy writing one of these stories. You know, the kind where the loyal husband discovers the love of his life has been lying to him. The kind where everything you thought was solid, unbreakable, real, turns out to be nothing but an illusion. But here I am. I wasn't looking for the truth when I found it. I wasn't suspicious, paranoid, or controlling. If anything, I was blindly trusting. I believed in my wife, in our love, in the life we had built together for 7 years. Until one ordinary day, a single email shattered everything. Now I'm left picking up the pieces, trying to figure out where I go from here. Trying to understand how the woman I loved could look me in the eyes, say I love you, and then go to him. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about truth, about pain, and about what happens when you realize the person sleeping next to you is a stranger. And if you think you'd see it coming, trust me, you wouldn't. I never thought I'd be sitting here questioning everything I believed about my marriage. For 7 years, I thought Emily and I had built something unshakable. We were high school sweethearts, best friends, and partners in everything. I'm 30 years old, working from home as a software developer. It's not the most glamorous job, but it's stable, and it's allowed me to be around more often, to be the kind of husband who's present. Emily, my wife, is 28. She's stunning, always has been. But beyond that, she's talented. She works as a hair and makeup artist, specializing in bridal styling. Over the past few years, her career has taken off. I was proud of her. I still am, in a way. Her success didn't come out of nowhere. She worked hard, but she also had help. John. He owns a well-known local wedding venue, and he's been a big reason why Emily's business has grown. Through him, she's landed high-profile gigs, modeled in local ads, and connected with photographers and agencies that helped her reputation skyrocket. I never thought much about him before. He was just part of her work life, just another name in the mix of industry professionals she networked with. He's in his 40s, married, with 3 kids. His wife is attractive too. A bit older, sure, but still beautiful. Emily and I always had a great marriage. At least, that's what I believed. We had regular date nights, long conversations, inside jokes. We never let ourselves grow distant. Even after years together, our sex life was exciting. She was thoughtful, affectionate. She made me feel loved. I never doubted her, not once. Looking back now, I don't understand how I could have been so blind. How could I not see the cracks forming beneath the surface? Was I just oblivious? Or did I trust her so completely that I ignored the signs? I told myself we were solid. I told myself she was happy. But now, as I sit here, re-examining every moment, every smile, every kiss, I wonder if I was just fooling myself all along. It started with a single email. I was working from home, the same as any other day, when I heard the familiar ding from my wife's laptop. Emily had left it charging on the kitchen counter before heading to the gym. Normally, I wouldn't think twice about it. She's never been the type to keep secrets. She doesn't even have a password lock on her laptop because she hates the hassle of unlocking it every time. But something about that notification caught my eye. It was from John. At first glance, it didn't seem overtly suspicious. The preview showed just a snippet, some logistics, a time, a place. But something about the wording didn't sit right with me. I don't know why I clicked it. Maybe it was the way my gut twisted. Maybe it was the sheer instinct that something was off. The moment I opened the email, my entire world shifted. It wasn't long. It wasn't explicit, but it was enough. You're incredible. I can't stop thinking about last night. Last night, Emily had come home late. She'd said she was working on a last-minute photo shoot with a photographer. She was exhausted but cheerful, acting like nothing was out of the ordinary. We had dinner together. We laughed. She kissed me goodnight. And now here I was, staring at an email that suggested otherwise. I could feel my pulse in my throat as I scrolled through more of their messages. At first, nothing blatantly romantic. Professional exchanges, business-related details, but then subtle things. John complimenting how beyond stunning she looked at an event. Emily responding, but keeping her words neutral. But there were patterns. Messages about meeting up. References to places I had never heard her mention before. Then I found one that left no doubt. A confirmation for a hotel booking. It was for 2 guests. It was local. And it was the usual place. That was when the panic truly set in. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. My stomach twisted, my head spun, and my hands trembled over the keyboard. I tried to reason with myself to find some logical explanation. Maybe there was one. Maybe I was misinterpreting. Maybe, number I knew what this was. I just didn't want to admit it. For the first time in my marriage, I doubted my wife, and that doubt felt like a knife to the gut. I couldn't stop thinking about that email. It played on a loop in my head, over and over again. You're incredible. I can't stop thinking about last night. I wanted to believe there was some other explanation. I needed there to be one, but deep down, I already knew. I just didn't have the proof yet. So I started looking. That night, after Emily fell asleep, I got out of bed as quietly as I could. My heart pounded as I tiptoed into the living room where she had left her purse. My hands shook as I went through it. I felt disgusting, like I was violating her privacy, but what choice did I have? In one of the side pockets, tucked away beneath some old receipts, I found a small jewelry box. My stomach dropped. I opened it. Inside was a delicate, expensive-looking necklace. Simple, elegant, but not something I had ever seen before. I hadn't bought this for her. The next day, I asked her about it casually. That's nice. When did you get it? She barely hesitated. Oh, a client gave it to me as a thank you gift. I nodded like it made perfect sense, like my world wasn't slowly caving in. But the doubt had already sunk its claws in. I started paying closer attention. She had been dressing up more, new outfits, new lingerie, even on days when she was supposedly just running errands. I noticed how she kept her phone closer, how she angled the screen away from me when she texted. Her work schedule had become increasingly unpredictable. Late nights, last-minute appointments, emergencies with brides. Before I never questioned it. Now I saw it for what it was. And then there were the emails. I copied everything I could from her laptop onto my own. Emails, messages, anything that felt remotely suspicious. I pored over them for hours, analyzing every word, every interaction. Most of it was work-related, but the signs were there. Flirtatious compliments, subtle hints, John's name appearing again and again. And then I found what I was looking for. A message about booking a hotel, a reference to keeping things discreet, a pattern of meetings stretching back nearly a year, right around the time Emily's business started booming. I felt sick. This wasn't in my head. This wasn't a misunderstanding. My wife was having an affair, and I had the proof. I wish I could unsee it. I wish I could rewind time, close that email, and go back to being blissfully ignorant. But I can't. The truth is here now, festering inside me like a slow poison. Every time I look at Emily, every time she smiles at me, touches me, tells me she loves me, I feel it. The weight of what I know, crushing me from the inside out. And the worst part? She has no idea. She still kisses me good morning like nothing's wrong. She still laughs at my jokes. She still lays next to me in bed, close enough that I can feel the warmth of her body. And all I can think about is him, John. Did she kiss him the way she kisses me? Did she touch him with the same tenderness, whisper the same sweet words? My mind won't stop. The images come uninvited. Her in a hotel room with him, tangled in sheets that aren't ours, sharing moments that were supposed to belong to me. I picture them laughing together, talking, enjoying each other in ways I used to believe were sacred. I want to scream. I want to grab her shoulders and demand the truth. I want to watch her face as she realizes she's been caught, as she scrambles for excuses, for justifications. But I don't. Instead, I sit with it. I live with it. I watch her pretending I don't know. I listen to her tell me she loves me, and I wonder, does she? Can you love someone and betray them in the same breath? And then there's the guilt, because despite everything, despite knowing what she's done, I still love her. Or at least, I love the version of her I thought was real. The Emily who was my best friend. The Emily who stood beside me for 7 years, who held my hand through life's ups and downs. I want to hold on to that version of her. I want to pretend she still exists, but she doesn't. And that realization breaks me more than the betrayal itself. I know I have to confront her. I know I can't live like this forever. But a part of me doesn't want to say the words out loud because once I do, there's no taking it back. Once I confront her, our marriage, our life together, will never be the same. So for now, I wait, even though it's killing me. I needed proof, real, undeniable proof, something that would force her to look me in the eye and admit what she had done. I wasn't going to give her the chance to lie her way out of this. So I started planning. The first thing I did was get a hold of her phone. It wasn't easy. Emily had become more protective of it. keeping it on her at all times, flipping it face down when we were together. But she trusted me. She still thought I was in the dark. One night, while she was in the shower, I took my chance. My hands were shaking as I picked up her phone, my pulse hammering in my ears. But when I tried to unlock it, I hit a wall. She had changed her passcode. That hit me like a slap to the face. Emily never changed her passcode. If that wasn't a red flag, I didn't know what was. I put the phone back exactly where I found it, my mind already working on my next move. If I couldn't get into her phone, I'd have to find another way. I went online and started researching Reddit, forums, anything that could tell me how to catch a cheating spouse. Turns out people had a lot of advice: voice activated recorders, GPS trackers, hidden cameras disguised as everyday objects. It all seemed extreme at first, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed to do this. She had already destroyed our marriage. The least I could do was protect myself. So I ordered everything: a GPS tracker to place under her car seat, a small voice activated recorder to hide inside, a couple of cameras disguised as smoke detectors for the house. I told her I was installing new smoke detectors to lower our home insurance. She didn't even question it. Then I set up the recorder in her car. That was the hardest part. I had to make sure it wouldn't be found, that it wouldn't make any noise or light up. I even plugged in a pair of old cut-off earbuds to disable any beeping sounds. When I was done, I sat back and looked at what I had done. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt like I had crossed some moral line. But all I felt was determined, because deep down I already knew what I would find. I just needed to hear it for myself. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. I just didn't want to see them. Christmas should have been a happy time. We were at Emily's parents' house, surrounded by family, exchanging gifts, eating too much food, and laughing at her dad's bad jokes. It felt normal until the anonymous gift arrived. A delivery boy dropped off a small bag addressed to Emily. It just said, "To Emily, from Santa." She looked surprised, maybe even nervous. Her mom and sister gasped when she pulled out a delicate gold bracelet, obviously expensive. "Wow, who's this from?" her mom asked, turning the bracelet in her hands. Emily hesitated, then forced a smile. "Oh, I think it's from a bridal client. I gave them a last-minute group discount, and they said they'd send a bonus." I nodded, playing along, but my stomach churned. It didn't make sense. A client wouldn't send a gift like that and not sign their name. A client wouldn't send something so personal. Later that night, I caught her outside, pacing the backyard, whispering furiously into her phone. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but her body language said everything: tense, frustrated. I knew, deep down, that she was talking to him. Then came New Year's Eve. We always spent it together, always kissed at midnight. It was our tradition. But that night, she told me she had to step out to meet with the bridezilla who was panicking about her upcoming wedding. "I promise I'll be back before the countdown," she said, kissing me quickly. "I won't miss it." But she did. I sat alone in our living room, the clock striking midnight, my phone silent. No text, no call. Just me and the suffocating weight of suspicion. She came home at 1:30 a.m., her makeup smudged, eyes red from crying. She rushed straight to the bathroom, shutting the door behind her. When she came out, I asked her what was wrong. She threw her arms around me, sobbing. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry for what?" I asked, my voice steady. "For missing the countdown," she whispered. That was it. No explanation, no details, just sorry. I looked into her eyes, searching for something: guilt, regret, the truth. But all I saw was a lie wrapped in tears. I should have confronted her then, but I didn't. Instead, I held her while she cried, hating myself for still wanting to believe her. I was done playing the fool. After New Year's, I knew there was no more room for doubt. The bracelet, the late nights, the strange calls, it all pointed to the truth I didn't want to face. But knowing wasn't enough. If I confronted her now, she'd lie. She'd gaslight me, twist the story, make me second-guess myself. I needed evidence, real, undeniable proof that she couldn't talk her way out of. So I did what I never imagined I'd have to do. I hired a private investigator. I found him through hours of reading online forums and Reddit threads about catching cheaters. His reviews were solid, and when I met him, he got straight to the point. "I've seen this 100 times, he said, leaning back in his chair. "She won't stop unless she thinks she'll lose everything. You ready for that?" I nodded, but I wasn't sure I meant it. We set up a plan. He'd follow John instead of Emily, figuring that John was more emotionally invested in the affair. He'd track their movements, gather photographic and video evidence, and find out just how far this had gone. At the same time, I started looking into divorce lawyers. I didn't tell Emily. I kept acting normal, kissing her goodnight, pretending to believe her lies, playing the part of the clueless husband. But every time I touched her, I felt sick. I felt contaminated. I met with 3 different attorneys, paying out of pocket for consultations because I'd read that once you meet with a lawyer, your spouse can't hire them due to conflict of interest. If Emily tried to fight me on this, I wanted to make sure she wouldn't get the best representation. One lawyer told me, the biggest mistake people make is confronting their spouse too soon. Get your evidence first. If you can prove adultery, you'll have the upper hand. That was all I needed to hear, so I waited. Every day felt like a slow death. Emily was still love bombing me, planning date nights, talking about starting a family, buying me gifts. It was like she knew something was off but couldn't put her finger on it. She thought she had control of the situation. She had no idea I was about to rip her world apart. The moment I signed the divorce papers, I felt something shift inside me. Not relief, not satisfaction, just a hollow kind of finality. This was it. There was no turning back now. I had spent weeks gathering evidence, working with my lawyer, making sure every detail was airtight. I had proof of the affair, emails, messages, financial records, and, thanks to the private investigator, surveillance footage of Emily and John meeting in hotel parking lots, holding hands, kissing, acting like a couple. She thought she was being discreet. She thought she was in control, but she was careless, and now she was about to face the consequences. My lawyer arranged for her to be served at her salon. It was a calculated move, public enough to catch her off guard, but not cruel. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she had done, but I wasn't out to humiliate her. Not yet, at least. The private investigator, acting as a process server, walked in during the middle of her shift. I wasn't there, but I watched the body cam footage later. Emily was standing at her station, laughing with one of her coworkers when he approached her. "Mrs. Emily." She turned, eyes narrowing in confusion. "Yes? I have legal documents for you. You've been served." She didn't take them. She just froze. "What?" Her voice cracked. He dropped the envelope at her feet with a sharp slap against the floor. "You've been served," he repeated. Then, with the kind of detached professionalism I wish I had, he told her to have a nice day and walked out. I could hear her breath hitching as he left. She was hyperventilating, her coworkers staring in stunned silence. I wasn't there to see the moment it hit her, the moment she realized she had lost control of the narrative, but I imagined it. I felt it. Meanwhile, I had already packed my bags. I left my wedding ring, a printed photo of her and John in the parking lot, and a note on the kitchen counter. Nothing long, nothing dramatic. I know, don't contact me, talk to my lawyer. By the time she got home, I was already gone. I had spent years loving her, trusting her, building a life with her, and she threw it away for him. Now she had to live with the fallout, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't the one suffering. She was. It didn't take long for the messages to start. First a missed call, then another. Then my phone vibrated nonstop with a flood of texts. "What the hell is this? Call me now." I don't know what you think you know, but I can explain. I ignored them, let her stew in it. When she realized I wasn't responding, the tone shifted. "Divorce? Are you serious? We love each other. We can work through this. Like we were the ones who had betrayed our vows, like we had made this mistake together." Then came the desperation. "Please, just talk to me. I messed up, I know, but don't throw everything away like this. I never loved him. I only love you." That one almost got me. Almost. For 7 years, those words meant everything to me. I would have done anything for her. And now they felt empty. Her calls kept coming. I watched the screen light up over and over, her name flashing like a ghost I couldn't escape. I turned my phone on silent and let them go unanswered. Then, I got a text from an unknown number. "How could you do this to me? How could you turn my own family against me?" Ah. So she had finally checked her email. She must have realized that I had told her parents, her sister, our mutual friends, that I had laid it all out, backed by cold, hard proof, that she wasn't going to twist this into some sob story where I was the villain. She wasn't mad about losing me. She was mad about losing control. And then the guilt trip came. I know I messed up, but do I really deserve this? Do I really deserve to be abandoned like this? Yes, you do. That was when I blocked her number. I knew what came next: more begging, more crying, more empty promises, maybe even threats. I had seen enough stories like this to know how the cycle worked. She would swear she'd do anything to fix this. She'd cry, she'd reminisce, she'd try to make me feel like the bad guy for leaving. And if that didn't work, she'd get angry. She'd try to paint herself as the victim, but I wasn't playing the game anymore. She cheated, she lied, and now she had to live with it. The silence was the hardest part. After weeks of chaos, of uncovering lies, collecting evidence, filing for divorce, and dodging Emily's endless calls, there was nothing. No messages, no confrontations, just an empty space where my marriage used to be. And I didn't know how to fill it. I thought I'd feel relief, maybe even satisfaction. But mostly, I just felt tired. The weight of it all. 7 years of love, of trust, of believing in someone who never deserved it, settled deep in my bones. Some mornings I woke up and for a split second I forgot. For a split second I thought everything was normal, that she'd still be in bed next to me, that I'd roll over and see her messy hair, hear her sleepy voice telling me good morning. But then reality hit. She was gone. Not just from the house, but from my life. The person I built a future with, the woman I planned to grow old with, was nothing more than a stranger now. I started going to therapy, not because I wanted to, but because I knew I needed to. My therapist told me what I was feeling was normal: grief, anger, betrayal, even longing. That last one stung the most. I hated her for what she did to me, but part of me still missed the version of her I thought was real. But that version didn't exist anymore. Maybe it never did. I kept busy. I threw myself into work. I went to the gym more. I started reconnecting with friends I had unintentionally drifted from during my marriage. And little by little, the weight of it all started to ease. Not disappear, just ease. There were still bad days, days when the memories crept in, when I found an old photo of us and felt that familiar ache, when I wondered what if. What if I had confronted her sooner? What if I had done something differently? What if I had been a better husband? But then I reminded myself, she made a choice. She chose to betray me. She chose to lie. And no matter how much I loved her, no matter how many memories we had, she wasn't the person I thought she was. So I did the only thing left to do. I moved on. And for the first time in a long time, I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I'd be okay.